Alright, so this time around we're going to go ahead and take a look at making some simple enemy AI. We're just going to create a chase enemy AI. So as soon as I get into this guy's range, he's going to start chasing me down. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Make a C# script, so enemy chase. So what I can do here is open this up, and we'll first start out with a public game object player, so we know where the player is. And we're gonna do an on collision enter, or trigger enter, because this is gonna be his range. On trigger enter, and we're gonna say if we get a trigger enter, and then if something enters our trigger, we'll say if other dot compare tag player. Goodness, this keyboard. Player. So if it's the player, then we're gonna say we're gonna call chase. Or rather, we're gonna set we'll set chase is equal to true, a public bool. Equals to false normally, and then if update, and then update, we'll say if player does not equal null and chase, then we'll call a chase function. And then chase will be public void chase is going to be player, or rather, we'll call look transform dot look at. So first we want to look at our player, so player dot transform. So we're going to look at our player, and then we're going to do transform dot translate towards our player. Now, in order to get a vector from us to the player, what we'll do is that we'll get, it's going to be player dot transform dot position minus our transform dot position, and that is a vector pointing from me to the player. And we're going to we'll do a public float movement speed. Make that equal to something low for right now. And we're going to multiply this entire vector that we got here. First, we're going to normalize it. So we want a unit version of it, so we're going to do normalized. We're going to multiply that by our movement speed. So now we have a unit vector in the direction where we want to go, and then times the movement speed, and that should do it. So we'll do chase here. But if our player, and then we'll set player is equal to other dot game object. But what if they exit our strat? What if they exit? Then we can do an on trigger exit. So if they exit our range or the trigger, we get something that leaves it. We'll do other dot if other dot compare tag player, and then if we'll do player equals null, and then we'll do our bool, so chase is equal to false, and then we'll make chase here true. Okay. Now we got to place that on the enemy. So enemy will have the enemy chase, and then player's gonna automatically grab it, movement speed, chase, and all that is gonna happen automatically. But we need a trigger for him, right? So I'm gonna add a sphere collider. This sphere collider will be his range. I'm gonna make that a trigger, and I'm just gonna increase it. The radius is gonna be, make it 5. So if the player enters his little radius, he's going to start chasing towards the player. Let's see if that works. Get close. He's going right for us. Let's try that again. So we see that we actually, for that particular radius, because of the damage dealer script, that will count towards damage. When we can change that is in the damage dealer script. We change that from trigger enter to just keep the collision enter, and then we can just add a public bool use collision, and then a public bool use trigger. I want to set that both to true for right now. And basically, we'll do if use collision, then all of this can actually work. And then here we'll do if use trigger, then this code can function. This is one of those times where we have both a trigger and a collision on the same object. So we'll say for this damage dealer, we'll say use trigger to false. So now when I enter his range, comes around and slaps into me. So the reason he rotates like that is because of he's not facing us immediately. He has to turn to face us. So like if I give him a cube to signify his front, make it like a, don't want to make that 0, make that 0.1. Make that like a hat or like a forward area, right? We'll see him turn. He's facing that way, and then he's gonna start turning towards us. Or that's not his front. My bad. His front is actually facing this other way. So I'm gonna do that. Move that here. Rotate it. So that's gonna be his front. So if we get close, there we go. Comes right at us and starts pushing us through the wall, through this floor. And he pushes us through the floor because it doesn't have a rigid body acting on him, so it's just like a kind of like a chase thing. So if we go back to the enemy chase, we're going to want to look at our target's current position, player.transform, and then go for it. Okay, so to fix this translation issue, we can do something else. We can actually just do transform.position is going to be equal to transform.forward. After we look at the player, we do transform.forward. After we look at the player, our forward vector is going to be facing right towards him. So transform position will be equal to transform.forward plus transform.position. And then we can just do that. It would be transform.forward times our movement speed plus our transform.position. Now if I click play, it goes right towards me. Just like that. Alright. So we want to do the rest of this stuff. And that's a very basic chase sequence now. And then I'm going to do some modifications to player audio. Likely, I'm going to do a little bit of refactoring to make everything a little better, but I'll show that at the beginning of the next video. See you guys then.